may understand that on the watch party, specifically the watch list, um, it's like a new issue, like once every week. And this one took like an extra 25 minutes to get resolved. It's just one of those things. It's just one of those days. Previous to 25 minutes ago, I'm sorry, that 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago, I was in a pretty good mood. I was in a decent mood. I was actually gonna start with something somewhat fun, but the problem is there's this weird thing that keeps happening with this technology in my computer. Every time I do something new goes wrong, like every week and a half. Apologies. I'm working on it, bro. It's I don't need to get in the details because it's going to stop working again if I get in the details, because if I start talking about this again, I'm going to be the one to make sure it doesn't work anymore, by breaking things. Anyways, glad you guys are here. It's Friday, despite all of the madness, despite all the stupidity. Glad for those of you who hung around for the last, I don't know, 25 minutes while I tried to get this thing going. But how about we go ahead and get this thing going? It was a full hour, maybe even a little bit more, but it's definitely going to be more than that now. Let's go ahead and see if this helps me out. I got another one of these. It's Friday. What are you guys drinking on? Let's go through all of that. I got another one. It's back to the Voodoo Grape. I'm sorry, I enjoyed that flavor of Monster energy drinks. The Nas happened on Tuesday. Oh no, I'm sorry, it happened on Wednesday because I wasn't here on Tuesday. Maybe this will carry energy back. Maybe it's a Monster positive energy drink because the positivity is not in this brain right now. Let's go ahead and get started, you guys. Actually, maybe this will be the thing that helps me rebound and bounce right back. Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker, you guys remember the Herschel Walker, Heisman Trophy winner, NFL player, running back. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but guy was pretty good at running a football. I'll tell you that much. The one thing is though is Herschel Walker has a lot of associations with Donald Trump, specifically from I believe that league that Donald Trump started back in the 80s to compete with the NFL, and they've been best buddies ever since. And anytime Donald Trump needs something, Herschel Walker is there. The problem with when Donald Trump needs something and Herschel Walker showing up is that Herschel Walker stands in front of a microphone and he says things and then it's not good anymore.
States of America. So we got to get out and vote and do the same thing, because if we do not do that, we will lose this country, because men shouldn't be in women's sports. I can know what a woman is. I know that guys should not ever be in women's sports. I know that we should always respect the law because it's written in the Bible, and we got to get back to what things are and make it simple. Make it simple and make it easy. This is the president to do it. Get out and vote, 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 vote the correct way, because we want to save America. Thank you, President Trump. I love you. I told him I will always fight for him. I've known him since 1983. And I tell you what, he's the same man in 83 that he is right now. And I love him to death. Thank you, President.
If that was supposed to be some kind of a guest appearance to help Donald Trump in the hole that he and the Republican Party are in as far as these upcoming elections, I think the hole just got a little bit deeper. Herschel Walker is the epitome of the type of people that Donald Trump and this MAGA party are all like targeting. What I know what Herschel Walker says is what I know is that I know what a woman is, and also that guys should never be in women's sports. That's what Herschel effing Walker is thinking and talking about while the economy is tanking. This guy's about to start another war. This guy's already been involved in other wars. This guy's murdering and still part of this genocide in Gaza. The way this guy's been littered all over the Epstein files and the walls are closing in on him. But Herschel Walker is worried about women, as he says, in men's, I'm sorry, men in women's sports, as he says, because the law is written in the Bible. Why? The one thing I can agree with Herschel Walker on, and that stupid statement that he made for the past 50 seconds, was that Donald Trump, who he met in 1983, is the same man today that he was in 1983. He was an assaulter, he was a sexual harasser, and apparently also as adjudicated and convicted rapist. So since that's the case, we should have always known who Herschel Walker also knows that Donald Trump is. But the fun part about this, which I was not supposed to be as annoyed as I am over this so far, is that it sparked all the memories. All the memories came flooding back from Herschel Walker's Senate run that Donald Trump endorsed him, and apparently, as we'll get to in a second, propped him up to go and run for that Senate seat down in Georgia uh, against Raphael Warnock. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Remember who Herschel Walker is and how he presented himself during this campaign.
I worked for the Port Law Enforcement. Y'all didn't know that either, did you? I spent time at Quantico at the FBI training school. Y'all didn't know I was an agent. I probably shouldn't tell y'all that.
What about your work at the FBI? You said in the past you worked for the FBI. Did you?
No, I never said I worked with the FBI. I spent time at Quantico at the FBI training school. Y'all didn't know I was an agent. You have a child with a woman. Even if you have to leave that woman, you don't leave the child.
Right.
Outcomes, revelations about 3 children they say you haven't acknowledged in the past. We know about your son, Christian. What about the 3 others?
I've acknowledged my other kids.
I wanted to ask about recent reports about your children that have just come out. How do you square those reports with your feelings and your previous comments on black men and black households?
So I grabbed my gun. I said, I will kill him. Herschel Walker won the Heisman Trophy. I'm going to kill him. But I said, I played Russian roulette.
Where were you when you played Russian roulette?
I was at home because I love competition so much. If somebody had talked to me about it, I would thought it was crazy because I said, that's competition.
You know, Senator Lewis is one of the greatest senators that's ever been. And for African American, that was absolutely incredible. I think for them to throw his name on a bill of the voting rights, I think is a shame. When you look at the bill, it just doesn't fit what John Lewis stood for. And I think they know that.
Herschel Walker. Imagine if he was in the Senate today. I guess he'd be standing up next to Donald Trump talking about a man and a woman in women's sports because it's written in the Bible. And I know what a woman is. I mean, you know, all that. You know what? I enjoyed it so much. This is the one when I heard it happen at the time. Again, this is during, I guess, that Senate run. He was spotting off a couple of normal Republican talking points. But the problem with those normal Republican talking points was he didn't understand them, even though they were stupid too. But still, he didn't understand them. But he decided to, you know, drive right through it, you know, like a running back.
Build Back Better. You probably want something written like Lord of the Land, stating all men are to be treated equal.
What?
Oh, we have the Constitution. So you probably want to put people in charge who's going to fight for the Constitution. Just thinking. God bless you.
I want people that are going to fight, Herschel. I want people to do exactly what you're promising the people of Georgia you're going to do. Explain what you want to do.
Well, you know, what I want to do is let the people know that they can put some integrity back into our elected officials by electing me to go to Washington. And I want them to know if they've looked at my numbers, they can see that I'm fighting and I will continue to fight. And I encourage them to join Team Herschel and fight with me. Go to teamherschel.com, fight with me, because it's not over yet. This is the beginning. And like I said, I'm training right now. But I tell you what, I'm getting ready. My team is getting ready, and we're not giving up.
He should have given up. But also, maybe at this point, Donald Trump is drawing from anybody that he can to pull out, to come to events, to talk about, I know what a woman is. This is what he's still stalking. I'm just want to point it out. I know it's ridiculous. I know it's absolutely stupid. I know it means nothing for the rest of the world. But this is the thing. Donald Trump is at these events. Donald Trump is having events. Donald Trump is having rally style events where he's going through literally these same type of talking points, these same topics, still going over, constantly talking about man and women's sports, transgender for everyone. But I just want to highlight, since people can identify how stupid Herschel Walker sounds, he sounds just like the president of the United States. And we need to understand how stupid that guy sounds too, and how he thinks everyone else is just as dumb as he is. And maybe he was right, because he keeps catching this kind of momentum. But he also notices that those walls then are closing in on him for all that nefarious, nasty stuff that he's been accused of doing, which they have refused to investigate, which I'm going to get to. I just want to start from a launching point that I thought was going to make Friday fun, but instead it made me upset all over again. Herschel effing Walker. I had more videos of this guy. I don't even want to talk about him anymore. Let's move on to something that's happening within the administration of that same guy who touted out Herschel Walker to talk some more about men and women's sports. Jesus. Actually, let's go to this. Considering I just pointed out all the activity, all the sexual assault and abuse and accusations of discrimination and everything that goes on in this guy's world, you won't be surprised to hear this. This is one thing you won't be surprised to hear. He's got a labor secretary. Her name is Lori Chavez DeRaymer. Lori Chavez DeRaymer is Donald Trump's labor secretary. And she's got new things happening in her world that, again, this administration doesn't give a damn about. It's in her world. It's like right directly in her world with that guy standing over her shoulder.
This morning, the New York Times reporting Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer's husband was banned from the department's headquarters after 2 women accused him of sexual assault. The Times reporting one of the incidents caught on security camera occurring in mid-December. Dr. Sean DeRemer accused of giving a department employee an inappropriate extended embrace. ABC News obtaining this D.C. police report. All names are redacted, but it details a woman making a complaint of sexual contact against her will, allegedly occurring on December 18th inside the Department of Labor. A former moderate Republican congresswoman from Oregon, Chavez DeRemer, was handpicked by President Trump to remake the Labor Department, thanking her husband at her confirmation hearing last year.
And finally, my loving husband, Sean, my high school sweetheart, who has stood by my side through every triumph and challenge. To all of you, thank you.
D.C. police investigating the alleged assaults, but so far no criminal charges have been filed. In a statement to the Wall Street Journal, the secretary's husband said, quote, "I have not done any of this and I categorically deny these things," end quote, and he's insisting he'll fight these accusations.
How does this keep happening? How does this keep happening? Everyone surrounding Donald Trump, at least, and this is an auxiliary connection to it, the husband of his labor secretary, Lori Chavez DeRemer, her husband is now banned from that same building that she works in, that he would visit sometimes. I guess a couple of folks inside the building caught his eye, and allegedly he was caught on a security camera, which I know they're not going to show us, hugging a little bit too long, and maybe he got a little handsy with 1 or 2 of these women that said this. But just to drive it home, the New York Times did point out, if Mr. DeRemer, the labor secretary's husband, attempts to enter this damn building, he's going to be asked to leave. A building restriction notice that the New York Times saw said that. Like, it's like they have his face on the wall looking all weird, going, "Do not let this pervert into the building, because we're in the middle of an investigation that the Justice Department or anybody else in this administration is going to completely shut down, because they don't want any accountability, and they damn sure want, sexual assaulters, accused or otherwise, walking around the building. That's what they enjoy." But did you guys remember this about the labor secretary? This happened just last year.
The complaints made during a widening internal investigation into alleged misconduct by the secretary, accused of having an affair with a member of her security detail who's reportedly been placed on administrative leave. A department internal watchdog also probing if Chavez DeRemer has abused her office, including by allegedly taking her staff to strip clubs and allegedly misusing official government travel. The secretary has previously denied any wrongdoing.
Who was this, Pete Hegseth? No wonder that guy became, the Department of War secretary, because they like going to strip clubs. They like taking staff to strip clubs. They like sexual, harassment among, at least that was with, Pete Hegseth. When it comes to Lori Chavez DeRemer, she's then instead been accused of a consensual relationship with a staffer that, is apparently being investigated. But like I said before, it's not going to go much further than them saying it's being investigated. Because who really gives a damn? This is what they're not going to investigate. She's 57 years old, and she's welcomed her alleged paramour at least 3 times to her D.C. apartment and twice into her hotel room while traveling. That's what these allegations come from, this complaint that was filed with the Department of Labor's Office of Inspector General. Again, this is from last year. I wonder how far this probe has gone. The former Oregon congresswoman is also accused of drinking in her office during the workday and committing travel fraud by having her chief of staff and deputy chief of staff make up official trips to destinations where Chavez DeRemer can spend time with her family or friends. That is, and this is the other thing, on the taxpayer's dime. It's almost like the president and the rest of his cohorts. The White House spokesperson Taylor Rogers called those allegations baseless, and that's why they're not doing anything about it, because all they have to do is say that everything is baseless. Because why would they come out and say, yeah, you're right, she's been drinking on the job, she's been having an affair with one of her staffers, and has been using taxpayer money to go wherever the hell she and he would like to go. Here's more. Secretary Chavez DeRemer is an incredible asset to President Trump's team, and she will continue advancing the president's America First agenda. That's what that spokesperson said in a statement. That's the truthful statement that they've got, because she is an incredible asset to Donald Trump, and she is going to continue to advance his America Last agenda, because this is what Donald Trump expects from his Secretary of Department of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRemer. This is why she's an asset.
If you all haven't stopped by the Department of Labor, Mr. President, I invite you to see your big, beautiful face on a banner in front of the Department of Labor, because you are really the transformational president of the American worker.
That's why she's an invaluable asset. She's quick, she's concise, she gets straight to the point of kissing his ass as quickly and efficiently as possible. Make sure she gets both ass cheeks. It's like you never even saw it coming. It happens and he's happy. You know, it's licked clean, as some may say. That's the asset that she is, because it's an asset, in case you see where I'm going with it there. But when it comes to actually talking about what is it she's supposed to be, I guess, defending with this administration, the things that she's claiming are happening with job losses and the economy and things surrounding the Labor Department that has Donald Trump's effing face now draped over the top of it like a fascist country would. This is her answer that she couldn't even let float and get past Stuart Varney on Fox Business.
The latest jobs report showed the unemployment rate going up to 4.6%. That's a 4-year high. You must be disappointed by that. Do you trust the numbers?
Well, when I look at the numbers, what I think about is that we saw a solid jobs report, 64,000 new jobs. The president has created more private sector jobs than we have seen in really a long time, and certainly not under the Biden administration, where almost 700,000 jobs have been in the private sector. Certainly, we have seen the federal jobs go down, which is what the president promised that he would do. We're going to be in North Carolina tonight. I'll be with the president talking about, to the American people, how we're going to protect the American economy and the American jobs. So with more people searching for jobs, the unemployment rate can tick up, because that means more people are getting off the sideline and finally wanting to be part of the American economy and this workforce. And at the Department of Labor, we want to stay focused on understanding exactly where we need to send those dollars to make sure that everybody has the opportunity at the American dream.
That was an interesting diplomatic move, I'd say, to see a 4-year high for unemployment is actually kind of beneficial and good news. Madam Secretary, I'm being facetious, but I don't.
Stuart Varney, the word he wanted to use was, that's some interesting bullshit that you just tossed my way, Secretary of Labor. I mean, you talking about job losses being a good thing for the American people is the cleanest version of what Donald Trump always says, which is usually tossing a couple middle fingers at folks and saying, I've done it all. I'm the best ever. Did you know that I won on affordability? That's her approach to it whenever job numbers are destroying this country. And then also, he just can't take it anymore. He's like, how can I find a way to buy into this BS and still look like I'm supposed to be in this chair? So he had to call her out as calmly and as nicely as possible, because apparently this is what Lori Chavez DeRemer does on her job. That is when her husband isn't running around the building being accused of groping people. Here, 2 purported meetups between Chavez DeRemer and her alleged affair partner took place in September after the mom of 2 told her security detail that her protection wasn't needed. This is according to this, investigative report in this complaint. A third alleged visit occurred in the same DC apartment in October, when the man waited until the agents protecting the secretary went home before driving over. The subordinate allegedly entangled with the secretary told the Post, I got lawyers, so I'm not going to talk to you. I have nothing to say. And then he, declined to, talk about it. Chavez DeRemer and the staffer traveled together to the Red Rocks Casino Resort and Spa in Las Vegas in late October to celebrate her niece's 40th birthday party, while the federal government was also shut down. That's weird, because while the federal government was shut down, Lori Chavez DeRemer was complaining that Democrats had shut down the government. While that government shut down, she took off on trips to Vegas to hang out with her buddy on the taxpayers' dime, because she was complaining about how Democrats had shut down the government. It's like they're all con artists. Here's more details. The complaint also describes Chavez DeRemer drinking in her office with references to a stash of champagne, bourbon, and Kahlua that she also keeps there. Man, when's the last time you seen Kahlua being drank by anybody? I think I saw people drinking Kahlua. There was a couple of, girls in college around like sophomore year. It's the first time I saw Kahlua. I wasn't big on Kahlua, but I mean, it's a nice stash. It's a good spread. She's got 3 different kinds of drinks. You can always go for the bourbon if you don't like the Kahlua. Lastly, of those details, in 2025, just last year, the DOL spent hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars for the secretary to visit 37 states on more than 50 official trips. That's according to sources in this official travel schedules. And at least 10 of those visits were to Nevada or locations where she has personal ties, including her home state of Oregon, Arizona, where she and her anesthesiologist husband, who's up on these latest allegations, have a home that's listed as a primary residence in mortgage documents. Also, and in Michigan, where her daughter lives. Wouldn't it be great? Everybody who's, having trouble making ends meet, but you're definitely gonna have to pay your taxes. It's tax season right now. To think about as you're paying your taxes, or as you're thinking about trying to find ways to scrounge back a couple of dollars in returns, think about the fact that for all of that year when you were paying those taxes and you'd look at your paycheck and go, damn, I wish I had some extra money. And then you listen to Republicans say things like, we're gonna put more money back in your pockets. What they really meant was that we're going to take more money out of your pockets, give it to people like Lori Chavez DeRemer to then go off with her gallivanting with her lover to different locations around the country while you pay for it. And then she drops pictures of Donald Trump at the side of the Department of Labor building because it makes him feel good. That's her job. At some point, we're going to have to start realizing that we got to kick these sorry asses out, and we can't put up with any more of their craziness, any more of their corruption, any more of their theft. It's direct and utter theft of our money, and they keep talking about how they're doing so much to make America great again. How great do you feel about paying for her escapades? And how good will you feel after this internal investigation that's never going to be conducted because it should have been conducted by now, comes up with nothing? And how good are you going to feel after her husband, who was just accused of groping 2 more women in that same building, is going to catch no consequences or even a deep investigation to discover the veracity of these claims? How good do you feel? It was supposed to be a decently feel-good day. I mean, that was supposed to be another embarrassing story for the Department of Labor. Instead, I'm pissed off. You know what might make me feel better? I'm gonna go over to the channel. I'm gonna like this stream. I hope you guys can like it with me. That is, if you're enjoying this late start, and I apologize for that yet again. So if you guys are just jumping in, don't worry, or actually maybe you should worry. I'm gonna go over just a little bit for Friday, even though we're wrapping up the week, and it's gonna be great. By the way, I'm seeing some comments here in the chat. There is good news. This is one of the frustrating parts about this time of day. Big things tend to get announced right around noon Eastern time when it comes to this political affair that we're wrapped up in. But apparently, according to the chat, I haven't independently confirmed this, but according to you guys in the chat, Donald Trump has lost that Supreme Court decision over his tariffs. Wow. It was the thing that he had been talking about a lot. You could tell he was a little bit nervous, and it took a long time. I'm not sure what they were going through, or even where where they ended up having their opinion come here. I can't wait to look into it. I mean, I can't wait to look into it. It's a damn thing they did it on a Friday, but I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm too conspiratorial now. I feel like maybe this decision came down on a Friday so that there wasn't like this full week of news of weekday of news reports on this. The good news, though, is people talk about this all weekend. It's like an extra day of more political depressing news. But at least Donald Trump lost this one. I'm gonna have to look into more about what this means about his next steps, or retroactively doing with what he's already done with tariffs. But I think he's lost his authority that he assumed he's got, and that these Republicans in Congress handed over to him. What's next now? What's next? We'll see. This is going to be great. Maybe someone shoot me whatever Truth Social post he puts out with a bunch of expletives and calling people losers and how he's going to primary the Supreme Court justices or something like that. I don't know. He's going to say something stupid. I guarantee you that. Okay. So I got that out of the way. Don't forget also these stories, you guys, in case you guys can't hang on for the last 2 that I'm going to go through here today. These stories will be up on the watch list. As usual, you guys can check those out, share them just the same, like them as well too, interact with the same folks. There's a whole different audience in some of these stories that we have going on the page. It's just as fun, I promise, and they're just as informative because they just taught me about the fact that the Supreme Court ruled against this guy. But this is where the stress starts coming in. Was it early this week? Just yesterday, Les Wexner. I always get his name kind of weird, but Les Wexner, the Victoria's Secret guy, the CEO, that rich guy who's caught up with all those, Epstein file situations with his name listed all over the place. He went and testified, talked to some Congress folks. I'm not sure if they were on the oversight committee, but man, when he was talking to them, I think he was talking a little bit too much. The only reason I get that feeling is because his attorney leaned in and he told him, "You're talking a little bit too much," except he said it with much, much more colorful language. I don't think he knew everyone was going to hear this.
It was just regularly done. Answer the question. Okay. It was just.
Let's hear that again. See if you can hear his attorney whispering in his ear.
It's regularly done. Answer the question. Okay.
Man, that's his attorney? He whispered in his ear. First of all, he whispered very closely and passionately in his ear, "I will fucking kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words or less." Damn. By the way, also, he was really close. That was why he's trying to keep people from hearing what he was saying. But I feel like, maybe the most annoying and frustrating part about this from Les Wexner's point of view was that his ear was probably like, saturated with whatever kind of heat and condensation came from that guy's voice. The worst thing you could do is whisper in someone's ear like that. There's like a small whisper when it's like, then it's his breath probably smelled too. Ugh, disgusting. You know what he actually wanted? What he wanted, this is probably the types of things that Les Wexner was saying to this committee that was asking him questions about his connections to Epstein, that had his attorney hot whispering in his ear. This is what he said about Donald Trump.
I would go to some of the Victoria's Secret fashion shows. It was very important to the brand. At some of the fashion shows, Jeffrey was there and some Trump was there. And I remember because Trump would always introduce himself to me. And I always thought it was kind of odd that he was at the fashion show because he had nothing to do with fashion. I would go.
I swear, if you keep talking about Donald Trump in more than 5 words, I'm going to fucking kill you. I don't know if that's the particular answer came before or after he whispered hot air into his ear. But the thing that you don't want to talk about is how Donald Trump oddly kept showing up to Victoria's Secret fashion shows when he had nothing to do with fashion. But what he did have to do with was, being accused of assaulting women, being accused of assaulting girls, and also, covering this whole thing up so that people don't find out about that whole thing. So Representative Robert Garcia was one of the folks that was in that hearing, that question and answer with Les Wexner, and he came to different conclusions. Maybe it's because his attorney didn't get in and intervene fast enough.
We know of approximately over $1 billion, it looks like. It's about $1 billion that was either transferred, provided in stocks, or given directly to Mr. Epstein by Wexner. Now, it's important to note that Mr. Wexner appears to be unaware of much of the money, as he claims, that was given over to Mr. Epstein. In fact, it's interesting that Mr. Wexner has already begun to clarify in his mind that somehow he and Mr. Epstein weren't even friends. We should be very clear that the two were very close per reporting. They spent a lot of time together. Mr. Wexner admitted that he traveled to both Epstein's island as well as his other properties. Mr. Wexner also admitted that Jeffrey Epstein had access to a lot of Mr. Wexner's wealth. In fact, it's clear that Mr. Wexner is trying to downplay how close Jeffrey Epstein and Mr. Wexner actually were. And we should be very clear that there would be no Epstein Island, there'd be no Epstein plane, there'd be no money to traffic women and girls. Mr. Epstein would not be the wealthy man he was without the support of Les Wexner.
Representative Garcia laying down some obvious facts about what it is that we sing from Les Wexner and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. As a matter of fact, if you just take a glance into those Epstein files, do you guys remember this? There was a point when Alan Dershowitz was pissed off and screaming about this list that's within the files of prominent names that they called prominent names within said Epstein files. And there's multiple ones. The number one, you see Trump up there, but let's focus here at the bottom middle. Les Wexner. You see that? Les Wexner. I want to show you guys what it is I think that Robert Garcia maybe is talking about when he said Jeffrey Epstein's wealth is accumulated from this close relationship with Les Wexner. I'm only quoting what we've seen in these files that, you know, they don't want to continue to release more of. Here's the one point of Les Wexner on that prominent individuals list. They've censored the name of who pointed out this blank stated Epstein earned his money from having homosexual sex with Les Wexner. I'm not sure if Representative Garcia knew of the particular detail that was in there, but I feel like he was onto something when he said they had a close relationship, and then there's no such thing as Jeffrey Epstein and his wealth and his influence without one Les Wexner. But despite all that, despite what we've seen in those files, I guess, you know, Wexner's just going to push right on through and come up with this random excuse for why he was so tight with him.
Did Mr. Epstein ever present you with women for your sexual entertainment?
Absolutely not.
At any time, did Jeffrey Epstein ever inform or represent to you that he was a part of any intelligence service of any nation, including the United States?
Absolutely not.
Would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Epstein, at least initially, to be solely business related?
Yes.
Did you at any time ever consider him to be a close friend?
No. I think the perspective that I have now, and I think what's really important for this group to understand, is that as I look back at it, I was conned by the world Olympic all-time con artist.
When was the last time you were in contact with Mr. Epstein?
I have no recall.
Has the FBI or DOJ ever directly contacted you or spoken to you about
Not to my knowledge.
Never.
Never.
You got all these allegations, specifically that one about homosexual sex between Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein. That is, you know, I guess for the exchange of the power, influence, and money that also Robert Garcia pointed out wouldn't have made Epstein without, you know, that cash flow. And for many other folks, we know about the corruption within the banks. We just don't know the full details, or at least we're still finding out. That is only because these folks in the White House continue to try and cover it up. I mean, also in the Department of Justice, continue to try and cover it up. Let me let Robert Garcia go in a little bit more about how much more we need to see, despite all the things that we've already seen that should have given us a lot more information to look into this further.
We are committed to ending this cover-up. Right now, as we speak, over 50% of the Epstein files have not been released to the public and to the Congress. Donald Trump and Pam Bondi are leading a White House cover-up to protect billionaire, wealthy benefactors, whether it's Mr. Wexner or whether it's anybody else.
Maybe they'll get to the bottom. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like the walls, like I keep saying, keep closing in very slowly. That's why we got all these other, conversations and news breaking about the next crazy thing that Donald Trump is planning to distract us from what it is that we're going to continue to discover here. But let's finish with what we discovered about Les Wexner. Because as I said, he had this testimony where he maybe said too many things that were more than 5 words before he got, shouted down by his attorney. But here's more details here. Wexner, who of course we know is the founder of the company that once controlled the Limited, that store, Victoria's Secret, Pink, and Bath and Body Works, was named in several of those documents in the files, including at least one that refers to him here as a co-conspirator. One of Epstein's most prominent accusers, the late Virginia Giuffre, said in a deposition that she was trafficked to Wexner. And I guess she can't talk about it anymore because, as she said she would never do, The story is that she committed suicide, and therefore we can no longer continue to get her story. But her story did bring up Les Wexner, who said he barely even knew the guy. It was a business relationship. That is before his attorney whispered he's going to effing kill him in his ear. Last bit of information. Representative Garcia said Wexner testified that he's not been questioned by the FBI, as we heard, of the Justice Department about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And he said, how outrageous is that? He's someone that's been named by survivors, someone that's in the files more than most people, someone that's clearly a financial benefactor to Jeffrey Epstein and has not been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or the DOJ. He says it's shameful and wonders what the hell is going on. I'll tell you, Representative Garcia, what's going on. This Donald Trump Department of Justice with his face now draped over the top of the building, just like they did at the Department of Labor. This Department of Justice is continuing their cover-up of these Epstein files and all the disgusting, filthy connections and operations that lie within. The bad news is that we keep finding out the things that they keep covering up, and the only people left defending them are the types of folks that they're going to, I guess, go down with them. One of those was Pam Bondi. I like flashbacks, as you guys know, because sometimes when we see things happen right in front of us, we really don't know the full gravity of it. But now that we've seen Les Wexner talk, we can also go back to just a week and a half ago or so when Pam Bondi was standing and sitting in front of Thomas Massie, trying to put off why they redacted the name of Les Wexner. Now that we've seen and heard all this, let's go back and look at how angry she got about him asking very simple, straightforward questions.
Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
He was,
Mr. Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time
He
back?
was,
Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from.
All right, I'm reclaiming my
Can I give
time.
my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman,
Because
may
I
I
have
give my
another
answer
question.
on that? It's a political
the question.
joke, and I need to give my answer
Yeah,
on that.
we'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40
Chairman.
minutes, you asked me a question.
You can
Within
give me-
40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
Red-handed, there was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
4,700,
Okay.
and we invited
what?
you
Show
in.
the video.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to. You're a failed politician.
Gentlemen,
You need to
I
go
want
on
you to
these
watch the
matters.
video.
Mr. Chairman, please.
Now that we understand what it is and the reasons why they redacted Les Wexner's name, and she was fighting over it, calling him Trump derangement syndrome and saying how he's a failed politician because she didn't want to reveal. They kept his name out, and even though it didn't work, because they didn't want people to make that direct connection that we've all have been making, which we kind of already knew in the first place, but they didn't want it there in black and white until, as Thomas Massie pointed out, he caught her red-handed. I feel like this is going to be a repeated instance throughout these files. It's not just obviously the president of the United States. It's all these other powerful, rich, and influential people from here and all over the world that he's looking to protect. Les Wexner, who has some secrets probably on Donald Trump, he doesn't want to be, and under kind of pressure where he might have to talk about it. And he definitely, Donald Trump definitely doesn't want to talk about it. That's the reason why I'm gonna talk about Donald Trump and his involvement too. I mean, it keeps getting revealed. Here's more bombshells coming. So for those of you guys about to take off, I understand it. I love you. I'll miss you. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend, but I got one more story. Similar to Les Wexner's exposure in these Epstein files, the layers keep getting peeled back. Let's go to the more exposure of Donald Trump in said Epstein files. But every time we see more about Donald Trump, one of these lackeys comes out and has like a Donald Trump-like statement about it, and we're just supposed to believe it.
Well, here's what I guess angers me about the whole thing at the top.
is not one time did Attorney General Merrick Garland ever answer a single question about these files. Why?
Well, the Democrats didn't care about Epstein until someone had the notion that Donald Trump may have been involved. And what we've seen from the millions of documents that have been released is that Donald Trump is completely exonerated in the whole Epstein saga. But what we've seen is a lot of honestly unfinished business with respect to Epstein and the crimes that he and Maxwell committed, any potential co-conspirators, and holding people accountable.
Do you guys think people like, James Comer and Donald Trump and the rest of these folks, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, do they think that anybody's buying this anymore? It's the same talking points. It's the same thing over and over again. If you look into the Epstein files, you understand that Donald Trump is listed in there tens of thousands of times. But the problem is that it completely exonerates him. When you see the accusations, about raping of children and threatening their lives, and then also threatening the lives of their families, what that does is that exonerates Donald Trump. Maybe they should have checked in with Ted Lieu, who had a glance at those Epstein files and detailed what he saw.
So why are Republicans so interested in Bill and Hillary Clinton? It's because they're trying to distract from the fact that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files thousands and thousands of times. In those files, there's highly disturbing allegations of Donald Trump raping children, of Donald Trump threatening to kill children. So I encourage your press to go look at these allegations.
I feel like when James Comer says the Epstein files completely exonerate Donald Trump, I feel like he's lying or something. I feel like that might be it. So that's why he was on Sean Hannity's show, because he needed an assist from Sean Hannity, who also has frustrations with how this whole thing's going down. I want you guys to note something. Sean Hannity's frustrations with the Epstein files have nothing to do with all these victims and survivors and horrific accounts of the disgusting things that they did to other human beings, children, many times. He's not disgusted by that. He's not frustrated by that. What he's frustrated by is the exposure of it. I feel like Sean Hannity's going to find himself on the wrong side of history.
I guess what frustrates me is because Democrats, we've now learned that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, at post-conviction, was local conviction in the state of Florida, they were still asking this guy for money. And, for all the talk about Donald Trump 25 years ago, or around 25 years ago, he threw this guy out of the Mar-a-Lago club, which in society in Palm Beach is a big deal, and did it publicly. He humiliated him. If the guy had anything incriminating on Donald Trump, I'm sure we would have heard about it a long, long time ago, right?
That's exactly right. That's what all the former attorneys general have said, Bill Barr and Merrick Garland and everyone. If there had been any dirt on Donald Trump, that would have leaked out, because Donald Trump has that many enemies in the Department of Justice, in the deep state apparatuses that were supposed to be investigating Epstein. So with respect to Trump, I don't think there's anything there. And I think that if you look at Epstein and who the real bad people were, the real bad people were the ones who continued to communicate with Epstein after he was convicted the first time. And that's where the real bad behavior took place. That's where you have to really question anyone that was ever around Epstein. If you continue to associate with Epstein and Maxwell post the conviction in 2010, then you have some questions that need to be answered. And
James Comer is not a smart man. Every time he talks himself back into a corner. And for some reason, Sean Hannity gave him the assist on that one. First of all, for some reason, Sean Hannity thinks that this same talking point about Donald Trump throwing Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago years ago means something, because we also already know that he was tight friends with them and talked about their love of, young girls. It's weird. We keep hearing about that stuff. But also, how is it this deep state of the Department of Justice is somebody that's their reasoning as to why he would have been exposed a long time ago, when at the same time they've been talking about how the Department of Justice has been covering up all of these revelations within those Epstein files, and it's all the Democrats' fault because previous administrations did the same thing. How is it both things at the same time? But actually, the best part about James Comer's answer is that he said anyone that still had ties to Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction in 2010 are the real bad guys. James Comer said that. Anyone with any connections to Epstein after that first conviction are the real bad guys. And this completely exonerates Donald Trump. Hey, there's this guy that's in Donald Trump's cabinet. His name is Howard Lutnick. There's this story that he told where he distanced himself also from Jeffrey Epstein, just like Donald Trump said, and Sean Hannity piggybacked on that. They distanced themselves from Jeffrey Epstein. The problem with these two guys that say this is that they're liars. The first thing is that Howard Lutnick was busted in that lie.
I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it.
James Comer should probably talk to Howard Lutnick, because James Comer just said anyone who had any contact with Jeffrey Epstein after his original conviction in 2010, I believe, that they're the real bad guys. Why is Donald Trump, the guy that James Comer worked for, have Howard Lutnick, who James Comer said is one of the real bad guys, for continuing to have contact with Jeffrey Epstein? Why isn't James Comer all on his back? I thought he wants to get to the bottom of this. I thought he's concerned how Democrats didn't care about it for all this time. So instead, Republicans have stepped in to not care about it right now, when they campaigned on stepping in and doing something about it. Let's go to one of my favorite folks in Congress, Melanie Stansbury. And I feel like she wraps this whole thing up very efficiently. Here, watch.
Well, there's a lot to unpack in President Trump's response, but show me the evidence, Mr. Trump. If you were exonerated by the United States Department of Justice and FBI, then show us the facts, because what is in the files is that there was credible evidence provided to the FBI through multiple tips that Donald Trump himself was implicated in an act of sexual violence against a minor, and it was investigated by the FBI. There were multiple interviews that happened as a result of that tip, and I have seen no evidence thus far that the president was exonerated, and I have seen no evidence that he actually did cut off ties to Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, we can see ongoing correspondence. We know that there were still Trump allies communicating with Epstein. They were going to Epstein's private island. And so the president of the United States has a lot of questions to answer.
Yeah, of course. Boy, does he have questions to answer. It's straightforward. Now, listen, when you're on the right side of this whole thing, when the truth is literally on your side, because we're looking at these files, there's no need to argue with folks who are trying to spin their way out of this. It's like obvious stuff. Melanie Stansbury is looking for the evidence that Donald Trump says, and James Comer also says, is in the Epstein files that shows it completely exonerates him. I'm going to bring back this list that I brought forward when I was talking about Les Wexner, because there's this whole list of prominent names. They said within the Epstein files, it completely exonerates Donald Trump. As I said before, Wexner's on the list, but number one on this list is Donald Trump. Hey, let's zoom in really fast to find out what the Epstein files alleged to happen with Donald Trump, who he said this completely exonerates him. This is where the completely exonerates him starts, I guess. Blank stated Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down to his exposed penis, which she subsequently bit. In response, Trump punched her in the head and kicked her out. The date range was 83 to 85. Blank would have been 13 to 15 years old. Oh, here's number two. Blank remember Epstein introducing her to Trump, saying, quote, "This is a good one, huh?" And Trump responded, "Yes." That date range was roughly 1984 for that person. So that person would have been, 14. Maybe someone should ask Donald Trump and James Comer which part of the Epstein files exactly completely exonerates him. I'm waiting for that part. As many news outlets and folks are saying, none of this is full convictions of Donald Trump and all these other folks, but what it is an obvious cover up because none of these things are getting investigated. None of these things are getting talked about. As a matter of fact, it gets even worse. It gets even worse because folks are also pointing out that the DOJ removed a record of multiple FBI interviews with an underage Trump accuser, which oddly it shows within those Epstein files that they said completely exonerates Donald Trump. The FBI also spoke with her at least 4 times, but this is the really bad part. The document is no longer accessible on the DOJ website. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it is that the guy who said the Epstein files and his right-hand man, I'm sorry, right foot man who sits next to his right foot, James Comer, said it completely exonerates him, when if you look into it, what you'll discover is that they're covering up things that completely don't exonerate this guy. Instead, their main defense goes along the line of, old school fascists that don't understand we're in the age of more information and accessibility. This guy thinks this is going to get him off the hook.
I got a question about something big overseas today. The former Prince Andrew arrested by the police there, related to something with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you think people in this country at some point, associates of Jeffrey Epstein, will wind up in handcuffs too?
Well, I'm the expert in a way because I've been totally exonerated. That's very nice. I can actually speak about it very nicely. I think it's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's a very, very sad. To me, it's a very sad thing. When I see that, it's a very sad thing to see it and to see what's going on with his brother, who's obviously coming to our country very soon, and he's a fantastic man, the king. So I think it's a very sad thing. It's really interesting because nobody used to speak about Epstein when he was alive, but now they speak. But I'm the one that can talk about it because I've been totally exonerated. I did nothing. In fact, the opposite. He was against me. He was fighting me in the election, which I just found out through the last 3 million pages of documents. Yeah, please.
Doesn't he sound nervous there? He said he's sad about Andrew over in England getting arrested like 5 or 6 times. It's sad. It's sad. He couldn't come up with any other words. Usually this guy rambles his ass off pretty cleanly. But sad. But I feel like it doesn't really make you look too good when you have to keep saying it completely exonerates me. I did nothing wrong. I can talk about this openly because I didn't do anything wrong. I can talk because I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. If I keep saying that I didn't do anything wrong, what you'll believe is me saying I didn't do anything wrong rather than looking into what is that we're seeing and then like I didn't do anything wrong. Again, I'm only playing this another aspect of him saying this same line because he thinks repeating lies will work just because it worked on his red hats.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know. They're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome.
Do you think that she should publicly testify?
I've been totally exonerated on Epstein.
The answer to every question is I've been totally exonerated on Epstein. I didn't do anything wrong. I totally didn't. I promise. I didn't do anything wrong. Just flip through the pages. Actually, just look at the things that we've just shown here. I feel like he did something wrong. That's just what it seems like. And their talking points, if you haven't noticed yet, match up directly with what James Comer's been told to say. Because his job is to support this guy and all of his lies. History is not going to judge these guys well. We already know about the president, but all these folks who decided to give up, their entire lives and reputations for this guy and his disgusting behavior, maybe because they're part of it too. We don't know yet. There's millions more files left to go that Donald Trump has said he's no longer going to give up. So there's that. It's overwhelming the amounts of things that we're seeing about this. Like it's right in front of us. Like it's blatant. Like other countries with their leaders that are being caught up in this are doing something about it. It's right in front of our faces. This is pretty bad. All these supporters have to start peeling off, or else you're just going to be part of the pedophile protecting party. And that's just who you are. It's who you are now. It's the stain will never be like lifted from you. We're seeing it. I also saw a video of Mehdi Hassan completely dismantle Piers Morgan's attempt to try and, I guess, defend Donald Trump in this whole thing. There's no more defenses left, bro. It makes you look really bad when you step into any kind of discussion and you're like, well, to be fair to Donald Trump, he was completely exonerated. That's not what the facts show. The facts show that I've gone over just a little bit, maybe because of that late start. Apologies for that again. Those of you who hung on, I appreciate you as usual. Let the folks know that I think we broke down more of the holes in Donald Trump's argument. They'll come back over. Maybe they can check it out on the page later. It will be edited down, put up there later. Hope you guys come back and see it. Go ahead, like, share, comment on it too. I mean, why not? Let me know your thoughts. We'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the weekend. That is, if you can. I'm glad you guys are here for the Friday. Hung on there for me. Go tell John and crew over there that I say hey. Maybe not. It's mad late, but at least it wasn't my fault this time. We'll see you guys later. Have a good weekend.